Hello guys, welcome to episode 58 of the Switch Indie Fix podcast, a podcast dedicated to everything indie on the Nintendo Switch. As always, I am your host, Adam, and I'm joined by my co-host, Darth with a very, very impressive beard. How on earth are you doing, Darth?
I'm doing very good. Usual, playing a lot of games, watching a lot of sports.
Watching a lot of sports? What sports have you been watching?
The Stanley Cup playoffs, which could be ending today, and got into football. American football.
Cool. American or European?
But for European, go Bayern Munich.
Go Bayern Munich. Very controversial thing to say.
Well, I'm German and Italian, so not for me.
Okay. Fair enough then. Good. Yeah, but we're not here to talk about football, soccer, or hockey. We are here to talk about indie games. And yeah, this week, there's not so much indie game news to talk about, but there are a lot of new indie games coming out. So I'm excited to get into it and to hear what Darth has to say about all these new games that are coming out. But before we do, I would like to remind you that we do need your Nintendo or indie game related questions. If you want them read out on the show, you can go to switchindiefix.com/SIF podcast and ask them there. Or if you are in the chat, please at me or Darth with your question, and we will read them out at the end of the show. And as always, if you are looking for a fun gaming community to join, why not check out the Switch Indie Fix Discord server? Just head over to switchindiefix.com/Discord to join. So yeah, most of my time this week, indie-wise or gaming-wise, has been taken up by Hades, and that's what me and Darth are going to be talking about later. And we're also going to be talking about a game called The Last Campfire. Just briefly, Darth, what are your very quick impressions on both of those games?
Hades, I played maybe for an hour or two. I got to the first boss. I haven't beaten her yet. I'm really enjoying it. I'm still trying to figure out where does it fit in my roguelite hierarchy. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it, but I think we'll get into discussion more about that later. We'll bring it in when you go both playing. But I'm really enjoying it. It's very beautiful. There's actually good story in this. Not like a lot of roguelites where it's just a very minute story when just can you just keep repeating it. Right here's if you feel like you're continuing and growing the story as you can progress.
Yeah.
Right. And it's glad to have us. And also for say that if you don't like roguelites and you find them too hard, there is an accessibility mode in this.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's in the settings called God mode.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it tougher as you die.
Yeah.
So if you don't this looks interesting, but I do not like this kind of game because I don't keep dying 1,000 times, there's a way to make it easier for you and actually start enjoying it.
Yeah.
If you can find out that part not a sell for you.
Yeah. And The Last Campfire?
Never played it. Oh wait, Last Campfire. I haven't played that one yet. I'm really interested in it. But I need to get to it soon.
Yeah. Cool. Then I guess I'll talk more about that then later on. But as always, we will start the show off with our indie game news. And this week there are two items on the list, which is Darth.
A very little baker's dozen.
A very little baker's dozen. But like I said, there are a lot of new games of note, so we will get into that. We'll have plenty to talk about. But our first story is that Twirlbound announces a patch for Pine. So yeah, if you remember last year, Pine was released on the Nintendo Switch. I believe it was like pretty much a year ago, the end of last September. And I'd been following the development of Pine pretty much since I started Switch Indie Fix. I remember it was in the first round of people that I followed on Twitter when they were kind of announcing that they were going to be bringing these indie games to the Switch. Twirlbound was an account I remember following very early on because it was obviously it had Breath of the Wild inspiration, and I thought its story was very interesting of a human trying to exist in a world that is dominated by animals. And yeah, however, on its release last year, the game was in a pretty unplayable state with unbearably long load times, ugly graphics, and other performance issues. Now, nearly a year later, developer Twirlbound have released the version 2.0 of the game, which they announced on Twitter, saying, "We took our time, but we're proud to finally deploy version 2.0 of Pine for the Nintendo Switch, which decreases loading times by 55%. The world's density level is now on level with the PC. Has reduced stuttering. The UI scales with between docked and handheld mode, and yeah, it just seems they've made a lot of improvements to the game just to make it more on par with the PC version. So yeah, I think it's important news because if like me, you were excited for Pine but were put off by the early reviews, then now might be your time to jump into it and try it again, and or re-download it and give it another chance. What do you think of Pine, Darth? Like, I remember we talked about it once because it was in an Indie World presentation, and you didn't seem that impressed by it.
And that's staying the same, especially at the price point it is at the moment.
Do you know the price off the top of your head?
Here's $29 Canadian.
Right.
And for that kind of game, I don't know. The creatures look like creatures from Spore. And yeah, I just find the graphic. I mean, I don't like bagging on video game developers because I'm one also, so I know how it but it is very, again, looking at the screenshots, it looks very not much there. Like, here's a few little trees and very little polygonal, and it's like if I want to play this kind of game, I'm just gonna be Breath of the Wild, honestly. Like it doesn't look like put much more inspiration. It's like I'd rather play the game they're trying to copy.
Yeah. It's like they say. I think it reminds me of like World of Warcraft, the art style a little bit. And I think it's kind of like a gamble that they went for that kind of style because I guess people are nostalgic about it, but others think, well, why would I play a game that looks like it's, nearly 15 years old?
Especially in 2020.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think it's like you said, I'm kind of also leaning against like, well, if I wanted to play Breath of the Wild, I would just play Breath of the Wild. But I think it's cool that an indie developer is trying to, so early on after Breath of the Wild, is trying
for sure, yeah,
to do it again. And like the story, I don't know, it is interesting. I think like that, there are like these alligators and crocodiles and foxes and all of these other things living in like communities, and you're really like the outsider and like kind of seen as the weak one because you're a human and you're kind of having to fight for your way there. But yeah, like I said, when the game was released, I kind of didn't play it because like you said, the price point was quite high and the review scores were pretty low. So I'm excited to see people, if they go back and re-review it, if it has improved, and it's kind of go on.
If it would have been nice to have, I was checking the price because like, oh, maybe it was 2.0, they're gonna have a sale, right? Because like they want to get people into the game, especially like it's like same issue when the new Lucky Tale came out, right? Like it's the same. Like I thought it was the same bad game from the original. I'm like, oh, why am I gonna play this? Because it was so bad on Xbox. Why am I going to play this now? Whereas like the communication was bad, and I was like, well, if I didn't hear about the update and I see that $30.
Yeah, why would I risk with the update? Why would I risk the $30 if the game was already, reviewed pretty poorly? But that I think I kind of put it in for people because I know there were people that were also excited for the game and did try it out and were a little bit disappointed. And I think it's kind of nice to see that the developers didn't just drop it and be like, oh yeah, well, we're moving on to the next project. Like at least it kind of shows that they're willing to stick by it and improve it however they can.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. So next up, another kind of thing, like the reason I put this story in is because I feel like I haven't really heard many people talking about this presentation, and that story is that Nintendo Life hold their own Indie Direct-like presentation. So on September 17th, Nintendo Life released their very own indie game presentation, much in the vein of the infamous Nintendo Direct. And it kind of came out and was there, and like, I don't know, I feel like I'm in touch with the Switch indie side of social media and Twitter, and really no one was talking about this. So I wanted to put it in because I watched it. It was about half an hour long, and there were some pretty cool looking indie games shown off, especially from developers like P-Cube. They had quite a big showing here. So here is a roundup of all the games that were on the show, which was taken directly from Nintendo Life's website, just so you know. So first up, there is a game called Hatch Tales, which is packing in new characters and modes along with music from Grant Kirkhope. Then they had gorgeous puzzle title Ever Forward is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Here's more footage of Skipmore's slow-paced Miniscape RPG. Vufu and Ripstone are bringing the acclaimed Pure Pool to Switch, which I applied for a review code for because it just looked like a really cool pool simulator. Like not like swimming pool, like the sport pool. Like I guess what Americans would call billiards. So yeah, I think that's kind of like a cool looking game. Then we had up Petadachi, mixes Animal Crossings and Tamagotchi, and is, I think, published by Atui Games, the people behind Mutant
Patch
Muds.
Tales.
Behind what?
Patch Tales also.
Yeah, Patch Tales, yeah.
And yeah,
Go ahead, mate.
Also, what's it? The
Mutant Muds.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Then we have Metroidvania Cathedral, which looks to give Shovel Knight a run for its money. I don't think it will, but it's obvious when you watch the gameplay that it looks like Shovel Knight. The next one, I think you're excited for it, right? Darth is Mind Seas. Is it Seas or Size? Which is mixes Metroidvania and Mega Man. It launches on the Switch later this month, so I think it's next week it launches. Then we have retro style Metroidvania. Alwaz Legacy launches on Switch again later this month, I think on the 29th of September. Then there was a game called Potion Permit, which is kind of like if you ever played Moonlighter, it's kind of very similar to that, where it's kind of like a dungeon crawling rogue-lite where you are a potion maker and you're trying to like heal people with your potions, and then having to go out and collect resources to make new potions. Then next up was Kataria Fables, which also kind of, it says here it's a bit like Rune Factory, but I would say it also reminds me a lot of Stardew Valley. But you are playing as cute like cat characters. They kind of look like the cats from Monster Hunter, which I thought looked really cool.
Palicos.
Pardon?
Palicos.
Palicos, that's right, yeah. Then we had Anton Ball Deluxe, is what would happen if Breakout and Mario Bros had a baby. Kate Bash is a 4-player party game where you play as party food. This game, I think I played at EGX last year. It's from the same people that are making Fogs. So it's like, yeah, a fun party game. Then acclaimed twin stick shooters, Beziers and Defray Manta will light up your Switch soon. And then RPG shmup Astro Aqua Kitty shows its claws ahead of the Switch release. And in addition to this, they showed footage from upcoming Switch titles such as Curse of Life, Mercenary Blades, Pixel Junk Eden 2, Hyper Brawl Tournament, Tens, Declines Drop, 1974 Feline Revolutions, Heroes of Loot 1 and 2, Memoranda, Sunshine Manor, Maya Unhappily Ever After, Stardash, Ninjaga, The Diplomat Warrior, Nari Rising Tide, Estral Equilibrium, Residual, Home, Postmortem Edition, Poker Club, Double Pug Switch, Clive and Wrench, which is like a 3D platformer, Karma, Space Grunts, Alone With You, Victory Heat Rally, and Mystica. So, yeah, it was a very packed 30 minutes of indie games. And yeah, I was kind of surprised. Like, it kind of came out of nowhere. And I didn't really expect much from it. But, like, 2 of these games are coming out this week. Alwa's Legacy and Mindseas. And, yeah, did you get a chance to watch it, Daph?
I knew of it. I saw it, like, maybe, like, a few days before it was happening. I totally forgot about it. I'm interested in Hatch Tales. I actually did kickstart that game.
Ah, okay.
I'm excited for it, but it's been what now? I think 2 years since the Kickstarter, and it's like the first real gameplay we saw. So hopefully, I think it'll be coming out soon.
So what actually is like the premise behind Hatch Tales?
It's a platformer where you have like, it's like a Banjo-Kazooie platformer where you're a bird with a worm in your backpack. So I think you use a worm as like a grappling hook kind of idea to get up levels and stuff. But it looks like a very cute game, and Mutant Buds is a fun game, so
yeah,
it looks just interesting. So I figured for whatever, I think it was like $20 or $15 was like worth giving them support.
Yeah. For me, like the ones that I remember being most impressed by were Pedadachi, just because it had that kind of Tamagotchi like raising a pet kind of feel to it, and it's also from Atui, which is, you know, they're a pretty well renowned publisher. Also, yeah, Mindseas, I think it's called. Seas, yeah. It's a hard word for me to say for some reason. Yeah, it looks very cool. Maybe not for me, but I know a lot of people probably are going to enjoy it. Like it says, it looks like a mix of Metroid and Mega Man, and has really cool pixel art. Ours Legacy as well. Another kind of Metroidvania with a cute, very like, it looks a bit more what's the word, accessible to me than Mind Siege because of the art style looks so cute, and it just looks like it might be less unforgiving as that. And yeah, and then Kataria Fables, like it looks very gorgeous on the video. Like I hope that the Switch port is going to look as good as the video did. And yeah, I think it just looks like an interesting world where you want to relax in and kind of explore and get to know the NPCs. So I highly suggest you go and watch the video. There were a lot of really cool looking indie games there, and I believe it is up on Nintendo Live's website and on their YouTube videos. But yeah, that is the news this week. But we do have a lot of games of note. It's been a very busy week this week for new games getting released or getting announced on the Switch. First up we have is Ghost Runner is dashing its way onto the Nintendo Switch on October 27th. The game looks like a mix of Mirror's Edge and Katana Zero and is set in a neon-lit cyberpunk world. There is a gameplay video up online, and the game looks fantastic, with many pundits saying it looks AAA. Darth, did you see the gameplay video for Ghost Runner?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it a while back. I didn't see the latest trailer, the one that announced it was coming to Switch, but yeah. I know of it. It looks cool. I'm just wondering how long it will be. Because if it looked, like for me, like if it said it looks AAA, because it does really look really good, is that for any company, I'm just wondering then, like, how long will a game like that be then if they put so much work on the graphics and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's like an interesting genre to take on, like this Mirror's Edge kind of parkour, and also basing it in a cyberpunk world. Like I feel like cyberpunk is kind of like the new buzzword right now, because there are so many games that are based in cyberpunk worlds, and I guess it's kind of like any game that has a futuristic setting with neon is now cyberpunk. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool that it's coming to October. You'll notice a trend in all of these new games of notes that all of the games are coming out. Well, most of them, I should say, are coming out in October. So October is. I
wonder why.
Yeah, it's going to be a very busy month for indie games.
Well, because November is a very, very busy month for AAA and new consoles. So, yeah, so they want to. You're not going to come out then.
Yeah, exactly. Then next up, we have it's just a reminder: the multiplayer update for Untitled Goose Game is out now on the Switch. Caused double trouble with a friend in last year's cheekiest indie game. And one kind of cute little note is that, yeah, you play two different geese, and one goose has a different honk to the one everyone does from Untitled Goose Game. So yeah, just so you know, that is out now. You can play it for free if you already have Untitled Goose Game on your Switch. Then we have Crown Trick, a turn-based RPG with rogue-like mechanics, is coming to the Switch on October 16th. The game is very reminiscent of Crypt of the Necrodancer and one of the biggest indie games ever, Cadence of Hyrule. So if you like those games, keep an eye out for it on the eShop. Just putting that in there just to troll Darth a little bit. But yeah, it was. I put it in because it looks it's a turn-based RPG with roguelike mechanics, and that's not usually two genres that are put together. So yeah, and I also believe it's published by Team 17, so they also usually put out decent games. Then we have Annapurna Interactive and Hollow Pond released a new trailer for I Am Dead last week, announcing the game comes out on October 8th. If you can't remember what I Am Dead is, it's this kind of very Annapurna-looking puzzle game where you are playing as a dead person, or I guess maybe like some type of ghost, and being dead you can kind of go through walls and go through items, and I feel like it's kind of like a spot the item kind of game where there is this story of the guy that dies, and you are kind of trying to find these items that plays into the story. Like I said, it feels very Annapurna and very kind of out there, out of the box, and it is coming pretty soon, October the 8th. And then the next one, did you just finish Mario 64 in the Mario 3D collection and are looking for another 90s inspired 3D platformer to get your fangs into? Well, you'll be happy to know that MacBat 64 is coming to the Switch on October 2nd. It's inspired by games from the 80s and 90s, has a low poly art style, has kart racing sections, and lots of unique NPCs to interact with. So yeah, this game looks like a love letter to 80s and 90s gaming, or I guess maybe more like 90s gaming, because it has so many different genres mixed in. It has the 3D platforming of Mario 64. It has kart racing from Mario Kart. I think they're kind of hinting at the unique NPCs there from Banjo-Kazooie, and it is kind of like a collectathon platformer. So yeah, like I said, if you are kind of finished with Mario 64 already and kind of looking for a game that is inspired by that, and I mean, I guess there are so many games that are inspired by Mario 64, but a game that literally wants to be Mario 64, then yeah, get MacBat 64 on October 2nd. Then the next one is Mindseas, a game many indie game fans have been waiting for. It's coming to the Switch on October 30th, so next Wednesday. That's actually my last day at the kindergarten as well, so that's pretty exciting stuff. And it's going to be on sale for $19.99. That's euros. Then the creator of Ding Dong XL, I believe his name is Adam Nickerson.
Yep.
Has a new game out on the Switch called Orb XL. It looks to have the same addictive gameplay as Ding Dong XL and costs a very reasonable 99 cents. Have you seen the gameplay of Orb?
I'm watching it now.
Can you try to explain what it looks like?
You're orbiting a ball, and I don't know exactly what you're trying to do. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, like I don't know. From what I saw, it's kind of like it looks like a solar system.
I think you're trying to avoid the meteors. I think that's it. You're like the world going around the sun, and you're trying to avoid the meteors and getting stuck into the black hole or something. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I think that's it. It's like there's like a gravitational pull pulling you in, and there are also objects flying around that you're trying to dodge. And like I said, it just seems to have like a very simple mechanic, but probably a very addictive one, just like Ding Dong XL was.
It's probably on the phone also, I assume.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think he puts most of his games on the phone first,
and then move them over to Steam and Switch.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're looking for something cheap and simple to play, simple to understand, and something addictive, then it's out now on the eShop. Next up, ever wanted to raise a falcon? Excuse me. Well, on October 8th, you can when Falcon Age lands on a Nintendo Switch. This is a game that I believe was originally a PSVR title.
Yeah, it was a VR game first. That's why I'm kind of curious how it is.
Yeah, like
I know it was VR and not VR on the PS4. Pretty sure, so it kind of makes sense that there's moving a non-VR part everywhere they can.
Yeah, but I feel like the main selling point of this game was that you could really like feel like you're holding a falcon on your arm and look at it, and it would react to your movements. And when you take that like VR aspect away, I'm like, well, you could just be watching a video of this game, like, you know, because the falcon isn't really reacting to you when you're playing it in first person on the Switch. It's just kind of there doing its thing. But I think it like got some decent reviews on PSVR and the other VR platforms. I think it's a strange one to bring to the Switch, but I mean, the more decent indie games we have on the Switch, the better. And like I said, if it sounds interesting, it's coming out on October 8th. And then the last one, I think, the last update that we have is from Dead Cells, and it's the Barrels of Fun update, and it's actually the 20th update. I don't know if it's the 20th free update, but it's the 20th update to the game, and it's now available on Switch. The update adds a new biome, Derelict Distillery, High Peak Castle alternative, currently available from the collector area leading to the High Peak Castle. A new item, Tesla Coil, a medium range multi-targeting shock inflicting turret. Another new item, Barrel Launcher, throw explosive barrels on enemies, just make sure they don't throw it back at you. And new OST, you can now choose between the original version and the brand new D-Make 8-bit chiptune version of the soundtrack in the sound option menu, which is pretty cool. And 3 new added achievements linked to the distillery. So Darth, you're probably better at explaining what this adds to the game than I am, because you've got a lot more hours in.
Yeah, so you know how you can branch off sometimes to different like worlds, like, you know, from the first one you can go to High Peak or the poisonous area.
Yeah.
Toxic Sewer. So this sounds like when you get into the High Peak one, in the rest area, you can go take another path to get to this area. So essentially, just adds a different location you can go to.
Yeah.
From the first to the third. Yeah. High Peaks is after. So High Peaks would be the second location. So it's after the second part of the run.
Yeah.
So yeah, just adding a cool new area with a few new weapons. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, slowly adding these small updates.
Yeah.
Once in a while, like at least it makes the game interesting. Now adding also a new OST it sounds cool. Like having that chiptune, 8-bit soundtrack. I mean, Dead Cells has a very good soundtrack. We'll probably talk about this more again as we go further in.
Yeah. But is this enough to get you to dive back in for a couple of
I always go back into Dead Cells. It's one of my 2 main games I always will drop into.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Good. So that was our new games of note this week. Like I said, there are a lot of games coming out in October. So if you are scratching your head and for whatever reason haven't bought Hades, then there's going to be plenty for you to play over the next couple of months before the PlayStation and Xbox kind of Goliaths come out and everyone goes crazy for that. I guess if you're not in the Discord, you might not know what our stands are on the next gen. Darth, what is your next gen plans? What console are you getting? Have you?
I got both.
Them? You're getting both.
I got the Series X and I got the PS5.
Nice.
I mean, for me, Game Pass, Xbox Series X is because of Game Pass, and if I want to try any indie games, great place to do it. Because then if I do like it, I'll buy it for my Switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm going for the Series S because I don't have a 4K TV, but I also really like Game Pass, and like Darth says, it's a cool way to try out indie games before you buy them most of the time. So that's kind of where we'll be going in November. If we're not making podcasts, it's probably because we're playing Xbox and PlayStation. But yeah, let us know what you're going to be picking up in November if you are picking up anything from the next generation. Also, let us know which games you're going to be playing in October. Like I said, out of all of those games, I probably would most likely try out Orbs, just because it's a fun game that you can just pick up and play a couple of rounds with, and it doesn't take too long to play around. At least Ding Dong XL didn't. What game out of those do you think you'd be most likely to play, Darth?
I mean, I don't think we're going to be buying any games in the next while because of the November.
Yeah.
I'll probably go in and check out the Dead Cells update. Mm-hmm. Honestly.
You're not going to go into Untitled Goose game with a friend then?
I have it on Game Pass. If I do, I'll play it there.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ghost Runner. Like I'm looking forward to seeing what the reviews are for that, because that could also be a purchase if it's good. But yeah, so that was our news section. Like I said, let us know which news stories you've been most, which apply most to you. Let me know what you thought of the Nintendo Live presentation. Like I said, there are a lot of good indie games in there, so make sure you go and watch it. And like I said, also October is going to be a busy month, so try and get some indie gaming in before the PlayStation and Xbox come out. But before we get on with the second portion of the podcast, I want to remind you that this week's episode of the Switch Indie Fix podcast is brought to you by the Switch Indie Fix store. Fancy some Switch Indie Fix merch? Then we've got it: t-shirts, hoodies, mugs to make you look like a legendary Switch Indie Fix fan. Interested? Then just go to switchindiefix.com/store. So next up is our conversation portion, and this week we're going to be talking about 2 games. Like I said, we will be talking about Hades and The Last Campfire. Probably I'll be talking more about The Last Campfire because I played the whole game and streamed it. And yeah, I'm interested to talk to you about Hades, Darth, because I feel like maybe you got into... So when did you pick up the game?
I got it day 1.
You got it day 1, okay.
Actually, no, I technically got it in early access on Epic.
Yeah.
And then
Switch?
They got on Switch when it came out. I also have another game to talk about. I forgot about. I haven't talked about since the last I was on.
All right.
Which will be Spiritfarer.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So you said you've gotten to the first boss, but you haven't managed to beat it yet.
Yeah, I haven't reached Meg. Forget. Yeah.
Meg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky because just before I started the stream today, I recorded a video for YouTube of how to beat Meg, so you'll be able to watch that and hopefully get some tips to beat her.
I'm getting close. I know you have to like her. Some of her attacks are really shmup like, right? Like, so it's like you just have to keep dodging and making sure you don't run into another enemy that's around.
Yeah, that's it. The key to beating her is getting getting the first dodge upgrade and then getting good at dodging. Yeah, that's the way to do it. But yeah, so let me just explain or try and explain what Hades is. Like Darth said, it was on early access originally on the Epic Store. I think it came out in December 2 years ago.
It's under then, and then I think it hit Steam on early access last year at some point.
Yeah.
And then they've been working on it and taking a lot of community feedback. They have some clever like jokes about early access in the game where it'll be like you get to a point, be like, oh, we're gonna kill you now because whatever's further ahead is not complete yet.
Yeah.
So they really listen to the community. I mean, this is made by Super Giant.
Games.
Who, Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre are all completely different games. They don't really follow like, oh, this indie game company makes like, Shovel Knight. They're all games are very much similar to that kind of thing. This is like each game is completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that would make this game great. Is like that studio great is that like you can grab any game and be like, they kind of like take an idea and then they make it their own, right? Like Bastion being shmuppy, Transistor being again kind of shmuppy but more of an adventure. Pyre like a weird basketball game where you can even lose and add the losing into the story, and this one here like as a rogue-lite.
Yeah, it's when I first booted it up, I was like, whoa, this feels very much like Bastion, like because I feel like the camera angle is similar. You have like a narrator narrating the game, and you also have the main characters that like it's all really well voice acted. But straight away I was like, okay, this is cool. This reminds me of Bastion. And yeah, the game is like Darth said, it's a roguelite based on ancient Greek mythology. You play as Zagreus, who is the son of Hades, who is the lord of the underworld. And from my own like interest in the game, I actually was Googling who Zagreus was in Greek mythology, and funnily enough, he was the god of rebirth. So it kind of fits in well with this whole roguelite theme. The reason why he can die and be reborn is because he is the god of rebirth. I don't think he knows that in the game, and I don't know if that's a plot point in the game, whatever. But yeah, so the idea is that Zagreus kind of is, Hades is kind of like an outsider in the family of gods. He's kind of broken off all contact with the Olympians who live on Mount Olympia. And he's just kind of like squirreling away in the underworld, and he's very angry because, he's kind of the outsider. And Zagreus is also the outsider, but he wants to become part of the fold into this wider family, because all of the gods are like brothers and sisters or aunts or uncles or cousins or whatever, so they're all related. And the main plot of the game is he's trying to escape hell to become a god on Olympus with the other Olympians. And yeah, so that's kind of like the whole idea is that you escape through your bedroom window, go into the different levels of hell. I think altogether there are 4 or 5. Like there's 4 levels, and then there is the outside world, which is kind of like where I'm at. I've got to the main fight, which is against Hades. Surprise, surprise. And yeah, I haven't beaten Hades yet. But you go through each level. At the end of the level, there is always a boss fight. Which is always with the same boss, but there are the more you play, there are different variations on the boss, and those variations make the fights harder. And yeah, the roguelike mechanics come in the fact that obviously if you die, you have to start again from the beginning. But what I really like is that the game has a lot of very well thought out progression in it, that you are getting like multiple currencies that you can use to then, after your run is ended, to go back and upgrade Zagreus and make him better and make him stronger for the next run. So what do you think of the game so far, Darth?
I'm really enjoying it, and actually just researching up on the voice actors, it's pretty cool that the voice actor of Zagreus, Logan Cunningham, he was the narrator in he does Hades, Poseidon, Achilles in this one. In Pyre, he was the voice. In Transistor, he was the Transistor, and in Bastion, he was a narrator.
Yeah, I also believe he's a dev. Like, he's part of the Supergiant dev team.
No, because he's done things. Well, maybe, but he's done things for like Dota and stuff. So like,
okay,
I'm not sure, but I'm thinking he's pretty much been the voice actor for like all the Supergiant games, which is pretty cool. I'm enjoying it. I guess we can this conversation here is that I'm still trying to think of why I prefer Dead Cells than this one.
Mm-hmm.
I still think I land more on the Dead Cells just because I find each run in Dead Cells way more different.
Yeah.
Because it's the weapons are always random. Right? And here it's you choose which weapon you want to take, because there's you start off with a sword and you can unlock the bow and arrow, the spear, then there's the shield, then there's the the gloves.
Yeah. And
then there's
a machine gun.
There's a machine gun. Yeah, and that's what I need to lock the last. That's what I'm waiting for. The last thing. Yeah. And then and then what changes that essentially get powered from different gods. So you have Poseidon giving you water powers, or you don't call it the god of wine giving you drunk powers, where if you hit an enemy, they'll kind of go drunk. Zeus giving you electric power, and that's where the diversity changes, right? So where do you put your attack, your attacks, right?
Yeah.
So I find it's still fun, it's really cool, but I do prefer the more random runs in Dead Cells where you're really changing your how you play, right? I think Hades is each run, or even whatever power you have, they don't change you drastically, at least in how I am, to be okay, this run I'm going to be playing like this, while this run, I mean, I guess depending on what powers you have, you could be dodging more than you would, or you would be going in more into attacking more, right? But I feel that's your run always is you go in attack, you kind of move away.
Yeah.
You go in attack, you move away, maybe use a long range attack, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe when your special is really good, you're going to, when you have a lot of enemies around, you're just going to use that for AoE, right? But for me, Dead Cells, you're going to dodge in, you're going to attack, use your bow and arrow, go in, maybe shoot a bomb or trap. I feel there's much more, for me, fluidity. And again, I love Dead Cells. Dead Cells was one of my favorite roguelites.
Yeah.
An idea that it's, here you can upgrade your character way more, from run to run, right? Because you have as you said, you have the darkness that gives you upgrades, if you die, you can come back to life the first time, right? That's where you get the dodge upgrade, I think.
There's lots of things you upgrade. It's funny because I'm the opposite to you, but I know you've played a lot more of Dead Cells than you have Hades, and I'd say I've played about probably now the same amount as Hades as I did Dead Cells, but I didn't play that many. I probably played most maybe 10 hours of Dead Cells, and I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum too, because I felt Dead Cells, I really liked its combat, but I felt I don't know, the runs were pretty much always the same, because I was always choosing the same weapons, because I think the progression in Dead Cells is a little bit less because basically you're collecting the cells to unlock more weapons. And the problem is, I always thought with Dead Cells was that you could only keep the cells if you beat bosses and then got to the rest period at the end of after the boss, right? So if you collected 50 cells and then died to the boss, you would always drop the cells.
Well, you can upgrade in every save point, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is if you don't get to the save point, then you would always lose the cells.
Yeah, but save points were not just after the boss, right? Save points were after every single stage.
Yeah.
The things that you would do after a boss, and there's what I found interesting is I forgot about that in Dead Cells, is that you could upgrade your critical damage after the boss. You would have the blacksmith, right? That was the only one that would give you kind of permanent.
But I thought then you could only save your cells. You could only spend your cells once you got into that room where the blacksmith was. Or maybe I'm remembering it.
After every stage, when you get to the restroom between stages, the collector's always there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you can do it.
No, sorry. Yeah, I'm remembering it wrong, because there isn't a boss after every stage, right? No.
It's after every 4. But that's something you may want to keep it just so at my stage in Dead Cells, I've unlocked most of the weapons I want to unlock. So now my runs are literally get to the after being the first. I can get to the second boss in Dead Cells pretty much all the time easily.
Yeah.
So I usually just make the first run, get to beat the boss, and I'll give it to the blacksmith to up my critical damage and my chances of getting a better weapon. Right. Before it was after everything, upgrade my potions, upgrade my money, because the only thing in Dead Cells you keep is your money. Money between runs, and that's really it, right? So but at certain points, and they're just gonna keep your cells until after the boss. But that's usually when you get good enough. But for me, Dead Cells, I like it because like I can use a hammer, then maybe I'll get like a sword, and next one I'll get dual blades, right? And that change or a shield compared to a bow and arrow, like each run it could be completely different.
Yeah.
Where here, if I like, it could be a bit different, but like if you like, oh, I love the spear, you're probably gonna go into each game with a spear, right? It's like in the Hades, it's like becoming a master of what is it? You're mastering yourself in one thing, while in Dead Cells is kind of like you're a master of none, right? You're just like
I think it also depends. Like the more you play with Hades, the less it becomes more like that, because like that's the thing is like I really focused on the spear, because I liked how much range it had, and it has like an ability to sometimes like stun enemies in, like I don't know if it's a purposeful one or if it's a bug, but like if you spam it, like enemies will just kind of freeze and you can just keep spamming it and kill them. But then the game kind of pushes you into using different weapons, because then you can get like bonuses to, if you start a new run, it might be like, well, if you use this weapon this run, you'll get bonus darkness and bonus gems. So you're like, okay, I'll try it out. And I feel like you just saw in the stream before, I was playing with the sword, which the sword I think I've only used like twice before. But I got pretty much to the end of the game with it, because it's because of how I was upgrading it. And I just also got like a lot of lucky, like good upgrades, which helped the sword out. And I think that's why that's why I prefer Hades over Dead Cells, because I feel like every run is more unique, because every room you're making like a decision on what you want to do. So it's like how it works is that you go into a room and clear the room, and then there might be two doors, and above the doors there are icons that say what you will be rewarded with if you clear the next room. So it's usually an upgrade from the gods, and it shows you which god you're going to get. It will be like a Minotaur heart, which upgrades your health. It will be money. It can be gems, a key, darkness, and also then it can also be like random events.
Or potions. What's it called? The ones you can give to gods, like for quests.
Nectar. Yeah, exactly. And for me, like I like that it's like really like, I feel like no run is exactly the same, because then it's always random what the next room is going to be, and it's always depends and it's always up to you which one you want to choose. And that's kind of why I like it, because then I feel like I felt like with, at least where I was in Dead Cells, in like 10 hours, I was basically just doing the same runs with the same weapons and getting to the same place, and then dying and thinking, oh great, well, I feel like I had no progression in that. Whereas this, I feel like it's more like, well, what type of run do I want to do this time? Like, do I want to do a run where I'm just farming darkness because I want to upgrade Zagreus? Or do I want to do a run where I'm farming gems because I want to upgrade my House of Hades, which is like kind of like the headquarters and where you kind of start out every run? Or do I want to just try and get as powerful as I can and try and build synergies between the gods? And that for me is why...
I think, yeah, I mean, I understand, but it's like same thing for me in Dead Cells, right? Because Dead Cells, usually when you get to the first room, is like you get bonus stuff if you make the run the room quickly or kill X amount of enemies, right? Yeah. So like, I think for me, it's like I think the same thing where I think you like Hades, I like Dead Cells, but I think I just like the fighting and the gameplay in Dead Cells over Hades. Yeah. I think Hades is still great. I love Hades. It's just that I think Dead Cells was my first roguelite where I really fell in love with. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be very hard for me to replace it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, and like for me, it's like the music, I love the look of Dead Cells. Hades is good too, but it has more of a, I guess, a common like look to it. You know, it's like you see it's like, okay, it has like that very like not like Diablo-esque kind of like camera.
It also has a very super giant look, I think, as well. Like I said, like if you didn't know the difference and you put a screenshot of Bastion next to a screenshot of Hades, you might think they're the same game. Like I think they do look, at least those two games do look very similar. But
yeah, it's a great game. I think I'm for sure excited to get through more. Like getting even like Dead Cells, I played that game probably for now like 50 hours, and I have not gone to every single room. I have not got every power up yet.
Yeah, that's it. And like I said, I haven't beaten Hades yet, but I did a podcast last night with Ben from Crossplayers and with Jeff from Nindy Nation, and Jeff he played a lot of it on PC and kind of put like hundreds of hours in. I think he said hundreds. I don't know. He put a lot of hours into it and basically says that is like, I don't know, I don't know what the comparison is. It's kind of like if you ever played The Binding of Isaac, it's like beating Mum for the first time, where you think, okay, this is the final fight, and actually it's like that is kind of like the first step on how long the runs are. That you beat Hades, and then the dungeon just opens up pretty much infinitely to you to just keep doing runs and just upgrading your character. But what, like, I know if you've not beaten Meg yet, you might not have gotten into the story that much. But what do you think about the story behind the game?
When I started playing it, I didn't realize there was really a story, because I kind of took it in as like a normal roguelite, where I'm just like, okay, let me get into it.
Yeah.
Which it kind of was a mistake, but the story's really cool. Like, also the depictions of the gods, it's very well done in terms that they're not all just like look Greek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Greeks, they were a god, but it doesn't mean they came from Greece, right? So there's a lot of different kind of looks to them. You know, a lot of
it's very diverse.
Diversity.
Yeah.
Right. Like they did a really good job of it, and I think it's really cool. Like, you know, when you speak to Poseidon or when you speak to Zeus, it's a completely different feel.
Yeah.
It's just really well done. Or when you speak to Hades, how he's like, "Oh, hey, son, blah blah blah," right? Like,
yeah, like
me more down, and that's why I can pet the dog.
Yeah, and you can pet the dog, yeah. And I think there's an achievement for petting him 10 times as well. Like, not on the Switch, but on the Steam version, there's achievements for petting him 10 times. So if you're playing on Steam, or later on when it comes to the other consoles, then yeah, there's a free achievement there. But yeah, the thing I like about the story is that it's like a total different. It's not like a grand mythological like Greek story. It's more like a soap opera, where it's just about this huge family that are all arguing with each other, and they all have these different relationships with each other. And it's kind of cool in runs, because sometimes in runs what will happen is that, you know, you keep getting the same two gods appearing over and over, and then all of a sudden the gods are like competing for your attention, and they're like arguing with each other about you, and like why like you shouldn't take her, and they're kind of like, you know, bitching about each other, and it feels like a real, like, you know, like dysfunctioning family. And I kind of really like that. Like, I think it's a really cool way to take on the mythology of Greece. And like, yeah, like Darth said, the gods, the designs are all really great. The voice acting is amazing on pretty much all of the characters. There's only one that I don't really like, which, yeah, just kind of sounds a bit like they just found someone in the office and was like, okay, we need a new voice. Can you just read these lines for us? And that's the guy with, I don't know if you've met him yet, but with the huge boulder.
Oh yeah, I met him once.
I gave him Syphilis on the podcast last night, but that's not his name. But it sounds something.
Yeah,
like
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah,
I met him once.
But apart from him, I think everything's done really well, and I think it's just a really interesting game. Like I said, I was so interested. Like I have a degree in history, so maybe that's why I like it so much. How do you say it?
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus, yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy. Yeah, he's the one that kind of gives you like, it's like a pro and con, right? Like he gives you like, oh, you can take this, but it'll.
No, he's just bonuses. He either gives you health, he gives you darkness, or he gives you money.
Okay.
There's no like there's no, you know, he doesn't take anything away from you. But yeah, so yeah, I guess that's our thoughts on Hades. I would really suggest it. Like, it's a bit unlucky for you now if you haven't already got it, because it was on sale for 20% off. But even at €24.99, I still think it's a game that you should try.
And that's his.
And yeah, we were talking about it last night, and Ben was saying, it's like, if you don't think you like this game, try it, and you probably will like it, because it's just kind of like you can tell that it's been developed for over a long time, and that the community has had a lot to say with it, because there's nothing really where I think about it where I'm like, oh, this could be changed to make it better, or maybe if they tweak this, like, it is so very well optimized for what it is, that, like, yeah, so far I'm just enjoying it. And it's one of those games where all I'm thinking about when I'm at work is like, okay, I can't wait to get home to play Hades.
And again, as I said, if you don't like roguelites because you don't like dying so much, there is a mode to help you in settings. So like, you can put on baby mode if you wanted to.
Yeah, and just enjoy the story.
Enjoy the story and just enjoy getting used to it. Maybe that will get you into roguelites, right? Having that like easier passageway where it's like, oh, let me try, and then maybe restart it or new save later and like go through it normally.
Yeah. That's it. And I think if you're not really a fan of the roguelike genre, this is This, alongside, I'd say Dead Cells as well, is probably the game that would get you into roguelite.
Yeah.
Because
for this kind of roguelite.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's difficult, but it's
rewarding.
Rewarding, and the progression is there where you feel like after every run, you're like, okay, I've achieved something. Like I've got something that I can see that I've come out of this run stronger, and I can. And it's usually with these currencies where it's like, yeah, I have this currency now. I can spend it on Zagreus to upgrade his stats, and then I know going into the next fight that he's going to be stronger, or I can upgrade my weapon, or I can give this nectar to an NPC who will then give me better items, or something like that. And even like the items you get, they have a level to them. So the more you use them, that the stronger they get. And it's just all of these things that snowball into eventually you get into Hades and beating him for the first time. And unfortunately, I've not got there yet. But,
and then it unlocks like
yeah,
I heard like the after, like, I don't know what you want to call it, but like it unlocks interesting different mechanics after beat Hades.
Yeah,
where like you may add another Meg into the battle and she hates it, so there's a huge thing there. It's kind of like Dead Cells when you beat the king, where you get like the cells you can add in and it changes difficulty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I did record a podcast with Ben and Jeff. So if you do want to listen to a more in-depth, like hour-long just rant, or not a rant, I'd say more like a gush about Hades, that podcast is on the Crossplayers feed right now if you're listening in the Twitch chat, and it will also be going up on the Switch Indie Fix podcast feed later today as well, so you can listen to it there. So what was the game you wanted to talk about? Spiritfarer.
Yes.
So tell me about that. How has your experience been going with that?
I've played 10 hours, I would say, of it. I played it on the PC because it's on Game Pass. I really love it. I think it's a great game for now. Get ready to be a bit sad because the premise of the game is that you're kind of like, you are ferrying spirits to the afterworld, and a lot of them are like, they all take animal shapes, and they're all like, the first few are connected to you. So one was like your aunt, one was I think your friend, and it's just like them trying to kind of get over their past. So your aunt is like, she finds their old kids' childhood home, and you have to like, and then finally like, they'll be like, okay, well, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go back to move on.
Yeah.
It's really cute. You can like hug them anytime you want. Really, they all have a meter of like of their happiness. So you have to like either feed them, you give them their own shack, and they use like either like one will like wood cutting, one will like certain things. So you kind of build like different farms to get food. You have like a woodcutter to get wood. You have a you can hold sheep. You can give the cotton to make clothing and stuff. Like it's just a lot of just like, it's very much a resource management kind of game.
Yeah.
With just like really cute and sad story of like these passengers you're ferrying across, and there's moving around a map of like, oh well, I need to upgrade my ship, so let me go see the shark so I can add more rooms to my ship. Oh, I need this, so let me go to the lightning storm to collect lightning bottles. Let me collect glitter, which is one of the currencies in the game.
Yeah,
it's really cute. It's like you have as you play this little girl, this girl with a cute cat companion. They do a really good job of the cat companion that kind of follows you. You have this like magical orb that can change into pretty much anything. And when you're like swimming, the cat will be on the orb, like just like kind of like moving on across the water. You'll use the thing to like water the plants, to cut down trees, and you cut down the tree with a cat. This is a really cute game, like especially now during quarantine where you may feel a little bit down. Like this game make you feel down, but there's also so much happiness in it, and just like you managing your ship, going from place to place. Like it's really well done. The movement feels smooth. If you like kind of like a management game, I highly recommend it because like, let me plant these kind of these certain vegetables because I can make coffee because each animal likes certain things. So you might have a vegan, so you can't feed them meat.
Yeah.
One of the characters is a big frog, and he will like eat anything, for example, right? So and then you collect like you can fish and like that's where you get food, or you can get like treasures where you can sell to this little creature that like takes anything pretty much. I highly recommend it.
Cool.
If you have Game Pass or get on Switch or on PS4, like
Yeah.
it's 30 hours, so it's not a small game. It's made by Thunder Lotus, who made Jotun and Thundered, and this game is completely different than those two games, which is really interesting.
Cool. It kind of also fits in, I guess, as well with the Last Campfire. Like, I guess just that Spiritfarer is obviously dealing with death, but the Last Campfire is also kind of a bit like it's kind of open to your interpretation. But I came away with it thinking that it's a game about how different people deal with depression, and it's also kind of the same thing. Is like it's set in kind of this fantasy world where you seem to have arrived there by accident and have to try and make your way out of this world where the other creatures there are slowly turning to stone. And so it's kind of like you enter these different environments, and you are kind of like a bit like Spyro, the very first Spyro the Dragon. You're looking for these statues of people, and when you get to them, you are kind of like then transported into a bit like a Breath of the Wild shrine, where you go there and there's a very specific puzzle just laid out in front of you, and you have to solve the puzzle. Once you solve the puzzle, then they're called Forsaken. These Forsakens then turn back to being humans, and it's kind of like you were saying with Spiritfarer, is that like when you turn them back, they're kind of like the reactions are all very different, and that's why I kind of think it's like it's a simile or a metaphor for depression, because these people, like, the idea is, or at least in my head, is that these people have gone off into the world to be by themselves, and when they've got there, like, kind of have fallen into a depression. And it kind of, the game is about hope, and that, yeah, even though that these people are turned to stone, there's still a hope that you can bring them back. And most of the time, the only thing that happens is that your character, you are like searching them out, and you're actually just looking for them and are kind of trying to be there for them. And when you complete the puzzle and you bring them back, they have these very different reactions to being like, yeah, like, oh, I'm okay, but I still want to be by myself, or something like, yeah, now I feel very tired, or what happened? I just came out here and lost myself and felt, or like, yeah, I feel like I disappeared into someone else. And it's just like a very unassuming game when you see it, because it looks very cute and colorful. But yeah, it definitely has like this metaphor behind it and this moral behind it, which I think is really, really interesting, and I think really well done. And the game itself, yeah, like it looks good on the Switch. Like, I have to say, it's one of those games where when you play it on the Switch, it has that Vaseline looking effect on the screen, where nothing looks crisp or sharp. Everything looks a little bit dulled and fuzzy. But nevertheless, like, the way the world is designed is very gorgeous and colorful and vibrant, and these really, like, a bit like Spiritfarer again, these really interesting characters there, where and they're all based on like animals as well. Like, there's a huge tortoise that is like a chef that again is kind of like she's lost her way and doesn't really, is in love with cooking, but has kind of also fallen out with cooking and doesn't want to do it anymore. And
so they kind of lost their flame in a way, like saying, like Last Campfire, they kind of lost their like inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and then there's like this big pig that you have to help out, and the game is a lot of like environmental puzzles. And then when you get to these Forsaken statues, then, like I said, it's kind of like a Breath of the Wild shrine.
How long would you say the game is?
I'd say between 5 and 6 hours.
Okay, so pretty much you're like, it's a puzzle game, right? Like, you're just like running around finding these like Forsaken, doing the small dungeon puzzle and moving on. Is there like as you progress, does it, like, some games have like a hub world or whatever, like, as you progress, does the world change kind of like
like there are different
light?
kind of different, I'd say, like biomes that you go to. Like in the, you kind of have like a hub, in the sense of there is always a campfire. Like you have like, I think there's probably 3 like worlds, I would say, and then between each world there is a like another environment that has puzzles in it that you have to solve the puzzles to get to the next world. And it's like, yeah, when you get to the world, there is a campfire in the middle, and you need to find a certain amount of statues of Forsaken to progress to the next environment. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's up to you. Like there is a set goal, like you have to usually find 5 and solve the puzzles, but there are more Forsaken out there for you to find. And like usually, I think it's like, you know, you might need 4 or 5 to progress the story, but there are 7 or 8 that you can find. So it's really up to you if you wanna find them or not. And yeah, it's just a really nice little game, very like surprising, coming from Hello Games. That if you don't know them, they're the people that made No Man's Sky. And at first I was a bit like cautious of the game, because I was like, yeah, what have they just like spat this out because they're like, okay, we have a reputation now and people might buy our games. But it's totally like not the case. Like you can tell that there was someone on that team that really wanted to make this game, and you know, Sean Murray was nice enough to be like, yeah, okay, take like, you know, some developers and go and make it. And yeah, and like I said, the Switch version does have some performance issues, especially when you're loading into the shrine like puzzles. But other than that, like it's a very well made game. Like it looks like the art design is nice. Like it doesn't look that great on the Switch. It also has really, really good voice acting. There's just like one narrator who is reading the story, and she's a like, and I don't even know what she's called. Like I tried to find her name, but it's so hard to find. But she has this gorgeous like light Welsh accent, and the way she reads is very much like as if she was reading a children's book to you, as she narrates it. And yeah, and I think I think it costs about $19.99. And like I said, it's like 5 to 6 hours depending how good you are at puzzles. I streamed it in two streams, and yeah, the videos are all up on YouTube. So if you want to watch the videos, you can do. They're up at youtube.com/SwitchIndieFix. But yeah, either way, I think you should check the game out if you do like puzzle games and you do want something a bit like Spiritfarer that has like some meaning behind it. And it isn't like Hades where it's just all about like the combat. Like there is a moral behind this story. But yeah, do you have anything else to say on the Last Campfire, Daff?
No, I'm interested in going to it. Maybe I'm going to maybe wait a bit. I hope maybe there will be an update to fix these small issues. I'm assuming there will be one. I don't think Hello Games will just let it slide, like let it go to the wayside, especially with their track history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, like it's still very like playable, but like I say, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, you can tell that the game was developed for the other platforms as well as the Switch, and it doesn't look like Hades. I feel like it looks great, and like you can tell that they were developing for the Switch first. Well, obviously they did it for PC first, but the Switch was like high on their hierarchy. But yeah, but it's still very playable, and still, like I said, the art design shines through enough that even though the kind of how would you call it, how it looks on the screen might not be as good as you want it to look. It still looks good enough to play.
Yeah.
But I think that is everything for this episode. Yeah. So let us know, like I said, what your thoughts are on Hades, how far you've gotten. You can do that by tweeting me at SwitchIndieFix, or tweeting Darth at DarthStridius, or you can come and join us in the Switch IndieFix Discord server, where we have a dedicated channel to indie games, to Nintendo Switch games, to pretty much whatever game you're into. There's somewhere to talk about it. And how can people get an invite to the Discord channel, Darth?
SwitchIndieFix.com/Discord.
That's right, yeah, and you should get an invite to join. Yeah, before we go, as always, I'd like to say a massive thank you to all our patrons who are supporting Switch IndieFix at patreon.com/SwitchIndieFix, which you can also get your name read out on the show by supporting $1 a month. They are Benjicon, Daniel Ward, Demiurge MCK, Giovanni Pimentel, John Reviews Switch, my mum, my fiance, Kool-Aid Moonwalk, Runestorm, and Hopple. As always, before that, I'd also like to say a big thank you to Steel Stand Gaming in the chat, who's been hanging out for the entire episode. Thank you for hanging out and helping us with the audio. Also, I will be looking at your review. Steel Sand is a new reviewer for the site, and I will hopefully be posting his review next week.
What game?
The game.
Can you get a tease?
It was called Ever Ocean. Ever Ocean, I think it was. It was a one of the Ratalaika games. Or Even the Ocean. It might have
Even
been.
the Ocean.
Yeah, Even the Ocean. That's right. Yeah. So yeah. So look out for that. And yeah, as always, the podcast will go up on Apple, Spotify, and other good podcasting apps as soon as I can after the show, as well as YouTube. Please be sure to review it wherever you can. Like I said, we did record a Hades dedicated podcast last night, which will also be popping up on the Switch Indie Fix podcast feed. If you can't wait till then, go to the Cross Players, Autumn Indie Nation, and listen to it there because it's a very good episode, and BenjiCon did a very good job editing it all together, so thank you to Ben for that. But until next time, guys, I've been your host, Adam, and Darth has been our co-host. Thanks for hanging out, Darth, as always.
Bro.
And we'll see you next time.
Keep on gaming.
Bye-bye.